consulting and recommended law firms. The bank also said that Epstein solicited her personally on a number of occasions for advice and services on real estate management, and that she was similarly unaware of any questions regarding his personal conduct at the time. Monstrous 180. That's a huge 180. So we would just like to issue a small, teeny baby crumb of a correction that in fact the exact opposite of everything that we had stated is in fact true. The opposite. So everything we said was a lie, and the opposite of what we said is the truth. That's now the official statement. Thank you for keeping us honest, obviously.
Too many of my colleagues, I'm afraid, are compromised in this area for whatever reason. Somebody's whispered in their ear, said, hey, you don't want something to come out on something else, you better keep your mouth shut on this. And that's exactly what they've done. And it continues to go, whether it's the honeypot that the Russians used to use or something worse. I don't know, but it's clearly, you see that up and down the line. You see good conservatives vote for liberal policies, and too many of my.
I think it's a lot of politicians. I think that's why the story is amazing. Like, right-wingers love the Epstein story because they're just like, yeah, Bill Clinton. Did you hear that he's maybe a pedophile? And it's like, yeah, fuck Bill Clinton. Absolutely. I say fuck them all. Fuck Donald Trump as well. Fuck every single person who may have been on the pedophile island partying with Jeffrey Epstein and maybe doing pedophile shit. I would like the list to be revealed in full. Who are the newly revealed Jeffrey Epstein associates? Thanks to court filings and news reports from the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and others, a list of prominent people who were associates of Jeffrey Epstein continues to grow. For many, their ties to the notorious sex trafficker and longtime high society hobnobber were not previously known, as they did not appear in Epstein's infamous Black Book or in the public flight logs of passengers who traveled aboard his private jet before the jailhouse death in 2019 while awaiting trial. That includes a lot of scientists, actually, and biologists and transphobes. That's kind of what connects a lot of them. Richard Dawkins, I believe, was one of them. He was in there. Steven Pinker did love him some Epstein action, by which I mean, as far as we know, he was on the flights. I don't know if he was going to Epstein's Island, but it is unusual that a lot of them were suddenly like, oh yeah, we're the cool scientists. We get to go to parties. In New York Post, the exhaustive list of all Epstein's alleged high society contacts, according to public documents available at the time. Below, a look at the new names contained in the various reports and how they've been linked to Epstein, as well as additional developments in the mysterious saga. New reports detail how Epstein references famous associates as part of his effort to groom his victims. The Wall Street Journal has published a lengthy new report offering more details about how Jeffrey Epstein groomed his victims, including numerous examples of times, according to victims, that he used the names of many of the elite associates in order to convince the women that he could help them with their careers or attempt to immigrate, explained Brittany Henderson, one of the lawyers representing Epstein's accusers, to the Journal, who have been identified in court filings by John or Jane Doe and will be identified when documents are unsealed in the coming weeks. Those alleged associates will be given 2 weeks to appeal the decision. I'm going to predict there'll be a lot of appeals, going to be honest with you. Just a tidal wave. But here's the trick. How do you do that without it being known to the public, right? How do you both get listed and also try to do an appeal to the listing and have no one leak that, like, so apparently, according to an insider, this person is trying to appeal a court document from getting leaked? Yeah. Even appealing is highly sus. Anyone who appeals, you can't do the whole, like, well, I'm just doing it to protect someone that I know and I feel it would not be in the public interest if this came out. It's like, oh, motherfucker, you were on the flights. You were on the flights, weren't you? All right. New names, everybody. Here we go. Vera Wang. According to the Wall Street Journal, the designer was one of the people listed on Epstein's schedules after 2008, and some victims who the journal spoke with said Epstein had used Wang's name while leading the victims to believe he would help them with fashion careers. Per the journal, Wang said she regrets ever associating with Epstein. I never knew he was using my name in that capacity, and it horrifies and repulses me to now hear that he did so, she said. Naomi Campbell. The Wall Street Journal also reports that the model's name was in Epstein's schedules after 2008, and one of Epstein's accusers went with him to a Campbell event in Paris. The Ukrainian model said she attended a 2010 fashion event for Naomi Campbell in Paris when Epstein spotted her and sent a Russian woman to go talk to her. The woman described Epstein to her as a wealthy philanthropist who was friends with Campbell and could help her modeling career. She seemed very upper class, the Ukrainian said of the Russian woman. I saw her standing next to celebrities in the VIP crowd, Campbell said. Thorbjørn Jagland, former Norwegian prime minister. Ooh, all right. Finally getting some new people in high positions of power. Yeah, suck it, Norway. The Wall Street Journal reports one of Epstein's accusers said he had shown her emails he had exchanged with Jagland, explained that he wanted her to meet him. Robert Kennedy, we already knew Robert Kennedy Jr. That one he kind of revealed on his own when he was like, yeah, I've said before that I flew on Epstein's plane multiple times. Yes, one time with my family. I took my family on one of Epstein's flights. They were going somewhere and I wanted to get to that destination. So it's just, that's the reason why. I was on it in 1993, Kennedy said, and I went to Florida with my wife and 2 children to visit my mom over Easter. My wife had some sort of relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. The thing that I love about that interview, by the way, is that, obviously Fox News is trying to, really sink RFK Jr. because they realize he's running as an independent and most of his fans are actually going to be Republicans because of the anti-vax, anti-trans stuff. So they're like, oh shit, he's actually a threat to Trump. Let's destroy him. So now they've been on the attack and they started talking to him about Jeffrey Epstein and Epstein's flight list specifically to try and incriminate him in Epstein's flight list, right? But he just kept going. They weren't, really pressing him for this information, but he's like, yeah, and then we flew multiple times, in fact, and my wife is friends with Ghislaine Maxwell and all this stuff. And you're like, wait, what? Why are you still talking? He said his second trip was also with his wife at the time, Mary Richardson, and his 4 children to go fossil hunting in South Dakota. Standard family trip fare. Kennedy claimed that he was on a flight to Palm Beach, Florida for Easter in 1993, but Epstein's flight logs from the early 90s show that RFK Jr. and his family members flew with Epstein and Maxwell from Teterboro Airport in Florida on February 17th, and that they flew back on February 27th, almost 2 months before the Easter holiday that year. There is also no record in any publicly available Epstein flight logs of the Kennedy family fossil collecting trip to South Dakota. So did you lie about your trips to Jeffrey Epstein? Because that one's pretty bad. Not that you're kind of like, oh, I'm giving this information out there. It's publicly available. Everybody already knows. I've been absolved, okay? And it's like, wait, but there's no evidence of this weird South Dakota trip. Either that trip happened, but there's no flight log, or something else is going on that you didn't tell everybody. You're kind of changing your own story. Sergey Brin, Google co-founder. According to a court filing, Epstein advised Brin from 2004 to 2007, including guidance on how to set up a tax shelter, a tax-saving trust for Brin's kids called Grantor Retained Immunity Trust, or GRAT, with bankers at JPMorgan Chase. Brin had become a client of the bank in 2004 following a referral from Epstein and subsequently held more than $4 billion in accounts there. The Wall Street Journal notes that Epstein helped billionaire and Apollo Global Management co-founder Leon Black set up a similar tax shelter. Epstein's relationship with Brin came to light in August 2023, court filing in the U.S. Virgin Islands and the civil suit against JPMorgan over the bank's relationship with Epstein. Long helped arrange and enroll Epstein victims in an English as a second language or ESL course at the university, according to the email she has sent to university staff and Epstein. This one's really, really bad. They are structuring the class around the ladies. This is a quote. Quote, they are structuring the class around the ladies. Please let me know so they know what to do or not to do, de Jong wrote to Epstein in June 2013, according to court filings. Wow. We got 2 huge ones on screen right now. First one being Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister. According to the documents, a longtime Israeli politician was a regular guest at Epstein's at his Upper East Side townhouse from the years 2013 to 2017, meeting with the financier monthly at large stretches for the time. He also flew in Epstein's jet. Reached by the Journal, Barak acknowledged that he met with Epstein when visiting New York City and that Epstein often brought other interesting persons from art or culture, law or science, finance, diplomacy, and philanthropy. He said he never met with Epstein with girls or minors, or even adult women in the improper context or behavior. Really had to say that one out loud and very clearly, eh? Just so we're clear, he brought very interesting people, incredibly fascinating individuals who had great interest to me. These people include lawyers, philanthropists, scientists. They do not include teenage girls or young women or women in an inappropriate context. That sounds good, right? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, they're not printed. Yeah, we're good. Bill Gates. Oh, Bill Gates. Part of the divorce club right now, allegedly in part due to the fact that he had some pretty frequent trips to go visit Epstein. Now, how bad it is, we're finding out a little bit more day by day. But hey, the thing with Bill Gates is certainly that this one pleases everybody, you know? Bill Gates seems to be hated by a lot of different groups. Not liberals. Liberals are still kind of buying into the mysticism of the benevolent billionaire and that he's one of the good ones, that he's saving the world and all that kind of stuff. But the left for sure has been calling out Bill Gates for, I would say, the right reasons. Kind of weird that one human being is buying up all the farmland in America. You probably shouldn't let one human being have all that power and wealth and fucking property. It's just strange that one person wants to keep buying buying up all of this fucking farmland? Is there no cap? There's no cap on how much farmland one person can buy? Not to mention a lot of Microsoft's predatory practices. The paper reported that Gates had an affair with a bridge player named Mila Anatova in early 2010s, and that Epstein tended to leverage his knowledge of the situation against the Microsoft co-founder. But Anatonova's account, Gates, an avid bridge player, had met her at a tournament in 2010 while Gates was still married to his now ex-wife, Melinda. Antonova had sought money to fund a startup that would help people play the game online. Boris Nikolic, a friend and then scientific advisor to Gates, introduced Antonova to Epstein in 2013. Epstein didn't agree to fund the venture, but did pay for Antonova to go to software coding school. Learn to code. Then in 2017, well after the Gates-Antonova relationship had ended, Epstein reportedly emailed Gates requesting that he reimburse him for the cost of the schooling. What a cheap fuck. Are you serious? That message came shortly after Gates rebuffed Epstein's efforts to get a major charitable fund with JPMorgan Chase off the ground from the Journal. The implication behind the message, according to people who have viewed it, was that Epstein could reveal the affair if Gates didn't keep up an association between the two men. But Gates reportedly never paid Epstein. Quote, I had no idea that he was a criminal or had an ulterior motive, Antonova told the Journal of Epstein. I just thought that he was a successful businessman and wanted to help, she said. I am disgusted with Epstein and what he did. And Nikolic said, I am deeply regretful that I had ever met Epstein. His crimes were despicable. I never saw anything like his illegal behavior. My heart goes out to the victims and their families. Leon Botstein, president of Bard College. Epstein had roughly 24 meetings with Botstein over the 4 years, covered in the documents, mostly at his townhouse. Regarding his relationship with Epstein, Botstein told the Journal he was only interested in Epstein's money. I was an unsuccessful fundraiser and actually had to object to a little bit of sadism on his part in dangling philanthropic support. Botstein had said he had first met Epstein in 2012, thanks to him making unsolicited donations to the college high schools, then continued meeting with him to secure more money. Epstein donated 66 laptops to Bard in 2015, according to documents, and Botstein twice invited Epstein to musical performances at the college, but longtime Bard president and ultimately concluded that Epstein wasn't interested in making more donations and that he was simply stringing us along. A follow-up report from the Journal found that Botstein accepted $150,000 in checks from an account linked to Epstein in 2016. Botstein claims that the money was then donated to Bard, which was confirmed by the school. A spokesperson for Botstein added that the money was for a year-long role on an advisory board for Gratitude America, Epstein's charity. So the money goes full circle. Interesting. That Epstein was a convicted sex offender who had admitted to procuring a child for prostitution didn't dissuade Botstein and Bard from seeking his financial support. We looked him up. He was a convicted felon for a sex crime, Botstein told the Journal. But we believe in rehabilitation, he said. And they kept the criminal history in mind when Epstein visited the school. Because of his previous record, we had security ready. Are you fucking serious? We knew that he had been convicted for something bad. Not entirely sure what, but we still thought it was appropriate to take lots of money from him because money. And then afterwards we were like, well, we should invite him to speak. So he keeps giving us money because money is great. And then at that point we were like, but we'll do the good thing. All right. We're going to have security detail. Just so everyone feels a little bit more safe. He can't go like running after, teenage girls or stuff like that. There are security guards to prevent that. Measures were taken. Okay. He did not have any free access to anybody. You had to say it out loud. We invited him knowing that he could be a sexual predator to children. We knew that was a possibility, but we took steps to prevent that from happening, and he didn't have access to kids. All right? We did the good thing. We're good people. Oh my God. According to the plans and the documents, Epstein brought some of his young female assistants on the trips to Bard. Well, he couldn't protect who were already being abused, I suppose. William Burns, CIA director. Hell yeah, baby. Come on. Keep them coming. The documents indicate that Epstein had 3 scheduled meetings in 2014 with Burns, who at the point was Deputy Secretary of State in the Obama administration. They both met in Washington, D.C. and New York, per the Journal. A lunch was planned that August in the office and law firm of Steptoe and Johnson in Washington. Epstein scheduled 2 evening appointments in September with Mr. Burns at his townhouse, the documents show. One of the scheduled meetings, Epstein planned for his driver to take Mr. Burns to the airport. The longtime diplomat left the State Department in October of that year and became president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, because, of course, yeah, to secure international peace. No one better than someone who had worked for the CIA for a very long time. Where he remained until President Biden nominated Burns to run the CIA again in 2021. Time is a flat circle, you know? CIA spokesperson Tammy Kupperman Thorpe released a statement to the Journal denying Burns had any kind of relationship with Epstein. Quote, the director did not know anything about him. Who's to know? Come on, especially someone working for the CIA. Other than that he was introduced as an expert in the financial services sector and offered general advice on transition to the private sector, she said. They had no relationship. Yeah. Oh, this one did sting. I already knew this one, but this one did hurt, you know? More so just the kind of like utter contempt he had for people even bringing it up. Just being like, how dare you? I'm not answering the question. You know, it's like, but I mean, good. Yeah, it's not exactly something I would want people not to have transparency about. Because, like, I agree there are some people who associated with Epstein because of how, again, connected he was that may have just been catching strays. They may not have been pedophiles. And they may not have known about the pedophilia. They may not have known about that kind of stuff. That could happen. Not every single person directly associated with Jeffrey Epstein was, of course, they themselves a pedophile. But if that's the case, then you got to be hella fucking transparent about that shit, you know? You don't do the whole, like, none of your business. That's, well, but you are a public figure. You're a monstrously huge public figure. I mean, you're a heavily respected writer. I personally have read many of your books. I've enjoyed many of them. I reference you consistently. And so, yeah, it does really suck to just have the whole, like, none of your business. How dare you ask me such things? And then it's like, it got worse. It was kind of revealed that he had actually taken money from a foundation and like, well, you know what? We'll get into it. It's not a good look. I'll say that. But we have to be fair and balanced here. I told you when we started this, okay? I was going to go after everybody. No one's going to be spared. I have no alliances to the Democrats. I can't even vote for them, okay? If we hear about CIA directors being first in the Obama administration, then meeting with Jeffrey Epstein a bunch, and then afterwards being reappointed to the CIA by Joe Brandon, yes, you're going to hear about it first and foremost. Same with Chomsky. According to the documents, Epstein arranged several meetings with Chomsky in 2015 and 2016 when he was teaching at MIT, where Epstein had donated hundreds of thousands of dollars. The scheduled meetings included a gathering of academics as well as a flight with Epstein abroad his private jet to New York to have a dinner at his townhouse with film director Woody Allen and his wife/previous adopted daughter, Sunyi Previn. When the Journal asked Chomsky about his meetings, the 94-year-old replied in an email that his first response is that it's none of your business, or anyone's. Second is that I knew him and we met occasionally. Chomsky said he and Epstein discussed politics and academics, and if there was a flight, which I doubt it, it would have been from Boston to New York, 30 minutes. Maybe it's different when you like hit 90 or something. Fair enough. You have been on like, you know, well more than twice as many, you know, potential flights than I would have at this point in my life. But like, I would remember if I was on a private plane with a known pedophile fucking billionaire architect of so much fucked up shit, and I found out after the fact. I would not know that. Not only know that I would readily be like, okay, so I got to tell you the story here. I was basically at MIT. I was meeting with all these academics. There was a guy who put a whole bunch of money into MIT. We're talking like $150,000. So he ended up meeting with everybody, and then he was like, hey, did you want to take a flight on my private jet? We went on the flight on the private jet. We landed at this destination. Here's the flight logs. That's all that happened. I'm disgusted by that pedophile, disgusting, sick piece of shit. Had no idea at the time. That's what you do, you know? Not like none of your business. And if it was any of your business, by the way, there was not really a flight. In fact, not one I remember anyway. If there was, it would have been from this location to this location. just be like, yeah, he donated a bunch of money. I went on the plane. It sucks. Turned out to be a fucking rapist ass pedophile. I condemn him and his disgusting ass actions. There you go, you know? What was known about Jeffrey Epstein was that he had been convicted of a crime and he had served his sentence, Chomsky told the Journal. Oof, so you knew that. According to U.S. laws and norms, that yields a clean slate. He also said that Epstein arranged for him to meet Barak so they could talk about Israel's policies with regards to Palestinian issues and the international arena. Ugh. A follow-up report from the Journal showed that Chomsky received a transfer from $275,000 from an account linked to Epstein in March 2018. My late wife died 15 years ago after a long illness. We paid no attention to financial issues, Chomsky explained in the email. We asked Epstein for advice. The simplest way was to transfer funds from one account in my name to another by way of our office. Not good. Not good. You know, that's like, it's done, you know, This one's bad. Yeah. Ariane de Rothschild, chairwoman of the Edmund de Rothschild Group. In 2019, the private Swiss bank Edmund de Rothschild Group falsely claimed that it and its chairwoman, Ariane de Rothschild, had no ties to Epstein, but according to the documents reviewed by the Journal, Mrs. de Rothschild, who was married to into the famous banking family, had more than a dozen meetings with Epstein. He sought her help with staffing and furnishing, as well as discuss business deals with her, according to the documents. In September 2013, Epstein asked Mrs. de Rothschild in an email for help finding the new assistant female, multilingual, organized. I'll ask around, Mrs. de Rothschild emailed back. She bought nearly $1 million worth of auction items on Epstein's behalf in 2014 and 2015, the documents show. Mrs. de Rothschild was named chairwoman of the bank in January 2015. That October, she and Epstein negotiated a $25 million contract for Epstein's Southern Trust Co. to provide a, quote, risk analysis and the application and use of certain algorithms for the bank. In a response to the Journal, the bank admitted that its 2019 statement was inaccurate and that de Rothschild had a business-related meetings with Epstein from 2013 to 2019, and that he introduced the bank to U.S. finance leaders, provided health, task and risk consulting, and recommended law firms. The bank also said that Epstein solicited her personally on a number of occasions for advice and services on real estate management, and that she was similarly unaware of any questions regarding his personal conduct at the time. That's a fucking monstrous 180. That's a huge 180. So we would just like to issue a small, teeny baby crumb of a correction that, in fact, the exact opposite of everything that we had stated is, in fact, true. The opposite. So everything we said was a lie, and the opposite of what we said is the truth. That's now the official statement. Thank you for keeping us honest, obviously. Of course. Catherine Rumler, Goldman Sachs General Counsel. The documents reveal that Epstein scheduled more than 36 meetings with Rumler starting in 2014 after she left the White House counsel office and joined the private sector as a partner at the law firm Latham & Watkins. Epstein also scheduled her to fly with him to Paris in 2015 to show his now notorious island estate in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Ooh, so this is one of the first we have a Epstein Island actual fucking connection. You were going to the island itself. He looked at apartments she was interested in, and he discussed with his staff whether the young women working at the Manhattan townhouse would make Rumler uncomfortable. According to emails obtained by NBC News, Epstein also referred her as a client to JPMorgan Chase in 2019, just months before his arrest. Jeffrey just thought that Kathy is one of the most powerful women in Washington and thought the two of you would bond. Epstein's assistant wrote the JPMC staffer. In 2020, Rumler took a job as a top lawyer at the Goldman Sachs Group, where she co-chairs the firm's reputational risk advisory committee. A Goldman spokesperson told the Journal that Rumler's relationship with Epstein was professional and her related work at Latham & Watkins. In normal course, Epstein also invited her to meetings and social gatherings, introduced her and other business contacts, and made referrals. It was the same kind of contacts and engagement she had other contacts with clients. Come on. The spokesperson also said that Rumler never noticed anything untoward at his townhouse. Nothing untoward. Interesting choice of phrase. Very, very kind of like biblical almost, you know? She never flew anywhere with him. She never visited his island, and that her comment was, quote, I regret ever knowing Jeffrey Epstein. Lawrence Summers. Ties between Epstein and the ex-Treasury Secretary and Harvard president were already well known, but the Journal provides more detail about their connection. Through Harvard stopped accepting donations from Epstein after his 2008 conviction, Summers continued to meet with him frequently. What's a couple of fucking convictions at the end of the day? The paper uncovered an email that Summers sent to Epstein in 2014, in which he asked the financier's advice on how to raise money for a nonprofit poetry initiative spearheaded by his wife, Harvard professor Elisa New. I need a small-scale philanthropy advice. My life would be better if I raised $1 million for Lisa, Summers wrote. Mostly it will go to make a PBS series and for teacher training. Ideas. This really feels like money, please. Money. Epstein and Summers made plans for dinner near Summers' Massachusetts home 2 days later, and in 2016, an Epstein-linked nonprofit gave $110,000 to New's project. In a statement to the Journal, Summers and New said they knew Summers, quote, deeply regrets being in contact with Epstein after his conviction. I bet you do. New regrets accepting funding from Epstein. I also regret the new information that has come out about me. I deeply regret all the new things everyone knows now. And that New's nonprofit had made a donation exceeding the amount received from Epstein to an anti-sex trafficking group. Man, fuck these motherfuckers. Oh, but who's up next? The one and only Peter Thiel. Hey, are there any right-wingers still watching me? I had really high viewers at the start of the stream because I thought of like a whole bunch of people, like the right loves hearing about Epstein, but it's always because they think it's going to take down the Clintons or some shit. And then like I'm always like, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to report on all of it, baby. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's Noam Chomsky or Peter Thiel, all right? I'm going to tell you every single fucking name that's on the list and how they're connected, and we're going to go through all of them one after the other. But you also have to take your fucking medicine before you get your sugar. Or maybe the other way around. Maybe you already had some sugar. Maybe you're like, oh shit, he's going after the Obamas. Oh shit, Clintons. Oh goddamn. But now we get to Peter Thiel. Yes. Yeah. Peter Thiel. The New York Times reported that according to Epstein's scheduling records, Epstein had several meetings with the PayPal co-founder in 2014. The records and the form of emails that Mr. Epstein's assistants sent to remind him of upcoming events show that in September 2014, post-conviction, Mr. Thiel was scheduled to meet with Mr. Epstein on at least 3 occasions, either in one-on-one meetings or with others over lunch or dinner. 2 other times, Mr. Thiel was listed amongst more than a dozen other well-known people Mr. Epstein would try and see while at his New York mansion. It's unclear from the records whether all the meetings with Mr. Thiel took place. Some were listed as sensitive or TBD, for to be determined. The Wall Street Journal reports that Epstein also scheduled meetings with Thiel himself and a Russian ambassador to the UN, Vitaly Churkin. I was rather naive, Thiel said at the 2016 meeting. I didn't even think about what Epstein's agenda might have been. There was just no way of knowing, obviously. Yeah. You don't have access to information. Tom Barrack. Close Trump ally and private equity manager Tom Barrack was friends with Epstein and former president back then when they were close in South Florida in the 1980s. The Wall Street Journal reports that Epstein tried to revive the connection in 2016 after Trump clinched the Republican nomination. In August of that year, Epstein scheduled a lunch break with Barrack, who was an informal advisor to the Trump campaign at the time. Barrack was also invited to the Epstein Upper East Side townhouse in September of 2016 with Russian ambassador to the United Nations, Vitaly Churkin, and Woody Allen. Why does Woody Allen keep popping up? You know, it's like a wild Woody Allen appears. But Leon Black is facing a scrutiny for his connections to Epstein. On 25th of July, the Senate Finance Committee announced it would investigate the Apollo Global Management co-founders' dealings with Epstein. The probe will look into $158 million that Black paid Epstein over the years for tax and real estate planning advice, a 9-figure sum to a man who did not graduate college. 4 days earlier, on July 21st, Black also agreed to pay $62.5 million to the U.S. Virgin Islands at a settlement that would clear him from any allegations made during the territory's investigation, aka you don't gotta face crimes no matter how fucked up or pedophilic they are, as long as you fucking pay a fuck ton of money. That's how the whole system works. $62.5 million to the U.S. Virgin Islands in a settlement that would clear him from any allegations made during the territory's investigation into Epstein's alleged sex trafficking ring on Little St. James. Let that number fucking just like sink into your brain. $62.5 million for immunity. That's a big immunity cost, you know? But if you can afford it. Black could also be back in civil court for his Epstein connections. On July 26th, an anonymous woman with Down syndrome and autism sued Black in New York for allegedly raping her when she was 16. I didn't know about that. The alleged assault took place in 2002 at Epstein's Manhattan mansion, after which Epstein refused to take her to go see a doctor, leaving her in the care of fucking Ghislaine Maxwell. Black's lawyer has called the allegations frivolous and sanctionable. One of the dealings Black had with Epstein, the New York Times reported, was when in 2016, Epstein helped Black avoid taxes when Black sold a $25 million Alberto Giacometti sculpture and used the proceeds to buy $30 million Cézanne paintings. Just nonsense money. Claimed that JPMorgan processed over $1 billion for Epstein during his 16 years as a client. The territory sued the bank for $190 million in damages. In oral arguments on September 12th, a lawyer for the U.S. Virgin Islands claimed that in 2019, the bank had informed the government of their business together back in 2003, reporting it as suspicious activity. Epstein's entire business with JPMorgan's entire business with Jeffrey Epstein was human trafficking, said attorney Mimi Liu. The only reason that JPMorgan finally, after 16 years, reported the $1 billion in suspicious transactions from Jeffrey Epstein is because he was arrested and then he was dead. JPMorgan Chase has denied any liability and stated that its business was a, quote, mistake. A mistake. An oopsie. A little less than a month ahead of the trial scheduled for October 23rd, JPMorgan Chase settled with the U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General Office. The bank agreed to pay $75 million, with $20 million of that going to charities, $20 million going to lawyer fees, $10 million to a victim's mental health fund. JPMorgan reached a confidential settlement, which has Staley for an undisclosed amount. This is fucking not that much money for JPMorgan Chase, by the way. As New York's Kevin T. Dugan wrote, in the settlement marked the real beginning of an end to the official inquiries into the cabal of wealthy and powerful people who helped make and who benefited mightily from Epstein's monstrous crimes. Prince Pedophile Andrew. The royal connections to Epstein have been public for years now, but a new documentary on the king's younger brother have placed him back in the tabloid headlines. In the A&E documentary, Secrets of Prince Andrew, model Lisa Phillips claims that she saw Prince Andrew at Little St. James in 2000, where Epstein allegedly told her friends to have sex with the royal. It was traumatic for her, and after that, she was not the same, Phillips said in the documentary. Her life went completely out of control. Royal biographer Andrew Lowney said in the documentary that Epstein and Prince Andrew were, quote, real best buddies, and that there was, quote, there were 7 different numbers for Andrew in Epstein's little black book. According to Lowney, 2020, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were invited to royal getaways like Balmoral and Sandringham, to personal birthday wishes at Windsor. Indeed, there's a photo of Epstein and Maxwell at the cabin in the Balmoral estate. Epstein and Ghislaine were invited over to the heart of the British monarchy. Lowney said, and he added that Epstein allegedly once said, quote, "There's only one person who likes sex more than me, and that's Andrew." That's so gross. According to Buckingham Palace Press Secretary Dickie Arbiter, Andrew would have had to seek permission from the Queen to invite Epstein to the private events. The Queen would believe her children, Arbiter said. Fuck the Queen. Yeah, there you go. The Queen greenlit this shit. Fuck the Queen. There's another fucking blight on the history of that monster.
The reaction was absolute horror.
How could someone like Prince Andrew have gotten into such horrible behavior?
It was a lifetime in the making.
Andrew's always known that he had the Queen's intense affection. He is her favourite. That's given him a lot of leverage.
People just loved Prince Andrew.
Prince Andrew thought he was more than royal. He thought he was a celebrity. The talk of the dinner parties was he couldn't keep his trousers closed.
When you are the Queen's son, no one ever tells you the truth. The privacy that Epstein offered, that for Andrew was heaven.
Virginia was made to be a sexual slave of Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell.
The Queen took the decision to fire him.
This entire sorry saga boils down to sex and greed.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Can you please hit the like and subscribe button and maybe leave a comment? It really does help the videos out. But first, the people who produce everything you see before you and make this entire channel possible: Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Puppy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Cernicus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian DeMel, Trevbot.exe, Words Greenwood, and Travis McClinton. And also, thank you to every other person who helps fund this show. Their names are on the screen right now. It would not be possible without every single one of them. We cannot thank you enough. And if you want to join the Patreon, please come to patreon.com/theserfs and help us exist.